So recently, I just got to watching a movie that's been on my list for a little while here. A movie from the 80s, in fact. 1982's The Sword and the Sorcerer. And I'd like to talk about this to segue into something as far as how to make a good fantasy movie with a lower budget. Okay? As you can probably imagine, I did not care for this movie. The beginning was great, but the beginning pretty much showcases all of the problems with this movie. They blew their entire wad on the opening of this movie, wherein you have this king that goes into this cavern area to resurrect this demonic creature of evil. And the special effects are just kind of, they're great, they're amazing. And then the rest of the movie is just, it's bad, you know? Um, God. Yeah, no, it was terrible. I mean, the, there, there are a couple of main villains in this. The king, demon guy who's in maybe 3 scenes of the whole fucking movie. Um, um, roughly. He's in the beginning chunk of it a whole lot. And then after that, you see him once in a cave where he talks about his evil master plan to come back from the dead after the evil king betrays him, stabs him, and throws him off a cliff. And he's like, my time is now. I shall rise again and claim the king's soul and his flesh and blah, 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 right? And then it takes him the rest of the movie, which is like a whole nother like hour and 30 minutes to be revealed at the end, right? And then there's the right hand man, the stooge character, who does turn out, in fact, to be the demon in disguise or whatever. Um, but, I mean, you could see that coming. At any rate, our our main protagonist is this guy who's the former son of the king, who was killed and his land conquered by the evil king. I can't recall their names. It wasn't worth my attention enough to recall their names. It was bad. And so my guessing is that both of these kings at one point in time had somebody create these mystical swords for them, because the evil king has this sword that is seemingly impossible to like break and can break through any sword. It's like made out of antimanium, or the fucking Wolverine's fucking metal shit. Animanium. Yeah, I think that's it. Whatever. Somebody wants to correct me on that, you go right ahead. I don't give a fuck. Don't get me wrong, I like Wolverine, but I like the X-Men as a whole a lot better than just. Never mind. I don't really focus on one character in a major series. Like I don't watch or read any of the DC comics or the Justice League and go, Batman's the greatest motherfucker who ever lived. No, and I don't do that. I don't do that with Marvel either. And I mean, granted, I don't. Never mind. I'm getting off on a tangent. I don't fucking care. Okay. um. Anyways, this sword is seemingly just can just cut through fucking like anything and break anybody else's sword. And then the good king, he passes his sword down to the, younger guy, right? The hero of our tale, the his son, right? And so this thing is like some sort of tri-sword. And what I mean by that is it's a sword with 3 blades instead of 1 blade. And the 2 blades on the side of the main blade, which they're all equal in proportion, right? And again, don't mean to reference Wolverine, but it's it's like a huge hulking Wolverine claw they made into like a sword. It's something resemblant of that, right? Except the two on the side, for some reason, can be rocket propelled out from the sword with deadly force. Why? I don't know. But if you think this is awesome, it's not. Okay? This sword barely gets used, and it's mostly because it's ridiculous in general. There's a reason why you don't have swords with 3 blades on them. So it barely gets used by the hero, the main thing, and the hero is kind of like this stereotypical Han Solo, lone kind of wolf badass, except he does have a group of followers, kind of. They're pretty much fucking useless. There's one point where he gets captured, and his followers, are like complaining at the whorehouse once they hear the news, you know, trying to be all badass about how I'm gonna go to save him out of another, predicament. God damn him, for getting captured again. This is just like him, right? They even employ the help of this guy who's a pirate, and I shit you not, it's the only name I really remembered out of the entire thing because it was so ridiculous. So they employ the help of a guy along with his men, and the guy's name is Captain Morgan, and yes, he is a pirate. And so they go to save him, and instantly, once they leave the whorehouse, they're like, yeah, let's go, kick some ass and take some names, and we're gonna go save him. And instantly, once they leave the whorehouse, it just cuts to them in the dungeon of the king's castle because they're so fucking terrible at their job. Everybody here is either really stupid or really terrible at what they do. I mean, this entire movie is full of just morons. I mean, the evil king goes around and worries about this evil sorcerer demon thing, which he resurrected, and he's like, oh, he'll rise again, and, we will all be damned, and shit like that. And it's just like, well, maybe he shouldn't have done it in the first fucking place. Oh, but no, he needed his help to win over the kingdoms because his armies were too shitty to take him on himself. Right? And so then, once he starts winning, he betrays the demon, he calls him over, and the demon's like, what would you have of me? And the dude just straight up just shanks him and throws him off a cliff. It's just like, if you weren't sure that wasn't going to kill him, why didn't you just send your men to the bottom of the cliff? Why'd you even have him? I don't know. Doesn't matter. And at the same time, when he summons the demon in the beginning, right, he witnesses this demon rip this woman's heart out from, like, a distance, right? His right-hand man is like, let's, see a demonstration of your power or whatever to see if you're the real deal, right? And he launches this woman across the cave, and then when she gets back up, he rips her heart out from a distance with the will of his magic, right? And this king has the balls to just shove his sword in this demon's face, and he's like, if you betray me, I'll fucking kill you. You just remember that, And then he's the one who betrays the demon. So, yeah, the other, I guess, lead is the damsel in distress character, the princess or whatever. And God, like, just this string bean of a girl who's just the worst actress imaginable. I mean, she's bad. And she's got one gimmick throughout the thing in which she uses repeatedly, in which she will seduce the bad guy. She does this like 3-4 fucking times to different people, including the king, including the king's right-hand man, who turns out to be the demon in disguise, and a guy who's with two other guys who are trying to, like, ravage her before Hero Man comes and saves the day, right? Instances where she'd be in moral peril, right? Like, where somebody would just whip out their sword and just cut her down, right? But no, she does this every time. She does her little seducing scene, and she starts kissing up on him and stuff like that. And, like the king, he ends up saying something along the lines of, when I wed you, I'll show you, the passions of a, real man or whatever, or some bullshit like that. And she's like, really? With what? And then she kicks him in the nuts, and this is like a running gag. And that's her thing. She doesn't have anything else but that. She doesn't even have a character, really. So anyways, to wrap this up, the last thing I wanted to make mention of is you have this moment where the hero is captured and he escapes, to, unite with all his other fellow people or whatever, and the whores in the, castle or whatever free the men from the dungeons, and they all lay siege on this this evil king's castle, right? But before that, when he is captured, he is put on display and crucified, in front of the king's, like, court or whatever. And he's got, like, rail spikes through his hands. And before, there's a guy, when he's younger, who actually shoots him in the hand with, like, I guess a crossbow bolt or something. It's not made too clear as to what it technically is, but shoots him in the hand and pins him to the tree, right? I can believe that maybe through years and years you eventually, like, work that shit out, maybe. Still very highly unlikely. But he managed to free himself through the force of his will out of these fucking, rail spikes, right? Which take up the circumference of his entire palm. Okay? And he is still able to wield a sword? No. Bullshit. He's got two giant fucking holes in his hand, and he's over here just like it ain't shit. Running around, and eventually he gets into, of course, the main battle with the king, which they're all on this, honor-bound thing to fight each other one-on-one and stuff, so he doesn't launch his fucking sword missile at him. But then they just start pulling out knives from fucking everywhere and fighting each other dirty, and it's just like, whatever. The demon turns out to be completely ineffectual towards the end, and you know what? You want to know how to make a better movie than this on a lower budget? It's called Hawk the Slayer.